Robbie!
Stephen Brooks, how are you, sir?
I'm doing so well. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Loved it.
Loved it?
Loved it.
Yep.
I did. I really enjoyed it. It's great. Review over.
We earned this. We deserve this.
Yeah.
These are our turtles. I was worried that
Hashtag our turtles.
Our turtles. I was worried that, we're too out of touch and we would have looked at them like, oh, I can't relate to these youngins.
Especially since they cast young kids and they're using words like Riz.
I'm going to say it was fire, no cap.
I will say that there are things that we missed in our review. I mean, we just finished it. Just because there's so much movie in it. There's so much stuff in it. There's a lot going on right now in animation. And obviously, everyone is talking about Spider-Verse and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Verse. And, it's like that. So we talk a bit about that. It was very enjoyable, right?
Yeah. Right? Oh, it was great. I had a smile on my face the whole time. I was just, I honestly, I saw Oppenheimer and that was 3 hours long, and I'm just like, get to the point. If this movie was 3 hours long, I would have been like, where's my fourth hour?
That's a great review. Well, you know what your fourth hour is going to be? The series, because they're doing a series, which we talk about when we get in as well. I don't want to belabor the point. No, I don't want to waste any more time. I don't want to vamp
wait
any longer for this podcast to get started.
I want to know right now. Well, I guess
Should I go watch Mutant Mayhem?
There we go. Dawson's Creek. That's kind of a throwback, much like the Turtles.
The other thing that we didn't mention is how we appreciated the hip hop that they used in the movie. Was classic 90s New York East Coast hip hop. It really grounded it in New York. It felt really nice.
Yeah. It was nice to see some classic rap. That's all I gotta say about that. So enjoy the show.
Rob, can I kick it?
Oh, yes you can.
Okay. I want to say welcome to episode 292 of the Rubbery Animation Podcast. And this one, I'll shorten it, but this one is technically called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem Review.
That's kind of like a rap itself. It doesn't rhyme, but, you work on it.
Check the rhythm.
Check the
rhyme.
Yep.
It's bobsled time.
I'm Don Bluth.
I'm Harry Partridge.
Hi, I'm Tom Moore, teenage superhero.
My name's Adam Phillips.
This is Robert Valley.
And I'm in no way doing a forced plug. No, sorry. I won't say that.
Definitely go for that.
And you're listening to...
Rob.
Steven.
Cowabunga. You can't just stop at bung. You got it's cowabunga.
Cowabung.
Did they say cowabunga in this movie?
I think Michelangelo yells it and it's very slow, like cowabunga.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't even think I caught that. So, obviously we're talking Turtles. We're just going to get right to it. We saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Fresh in our brains.
Fresh in our brains. Yesterday as of this recording, obviously. And we're going to try to record this and get it out as fast as possible. We're going to do a couple things. One, and I'll probably say this in the intro, so this might be repeated, but we're going to try to keep the spoilers for the end, and we're going to keep it a relatively clean show. So, Rob.
Yes.
What would you say is the plot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem?
Okay, so it's kind of a paint-by-numbers Turtles story. Turtles as in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not a regular turtle. The teenagers, they're actually teenagers now. And, they've always been teenagers, but now they have, they actually seem more like teenagers because they're voiced by teenagers as well. So they have a dream to much like Ariel, be up there in the world, or much like Satan from South Park, to be up there in the world, and to be amongst people. And they meet one person who is April O'Neil, who also happens to be a teenager and is an inspiring reporter as well.
Aspiring.
She's
inspiring.
So, with the fear that most humans have from seeing giant turtles and stuff, big turtles, because they're not giant.
The most fear.
Yeah.
The fear that most people
I know that's
have.
my number one fear in life.
Big turtles?
Yeah. Or being murdered by giant turtles. So she becomes friends with them, and they're kind of helping each other out. And that might get too much into the plot of what they're going to do, but
No, I think that's good. I mean, it's by the paint by numbers thing. There's a rash of crimes that's going sweeping across New York, and they're kind of banding together for different reasons, but for the same thing. They're trying to discover what's going on. She wants her story. They want to be the hero. And obviously, Mutant Mayhem. We all know Baxter Stockman is in the movie. There is an event that kicks off, and yada yada yada. There's more mutants that are in the world. You've already seen them in the trailers and everything like that, and how they are introduced and how it all comes to a kind of resolution that's where it goes outside of the paint by numbers.
Yeah.
So the beginning is very familiar. Yeah, you're right. That's that's a good recap of the plot.
that's probably the best recap I've ever done on this show.
It is actually. I think. You know what? High five. You actually said it a little farther away. So okay, we have the plot out of the way. I think we should, and we don't normally do this, but I think we should just get right into the other part of it, which is the style.
Yeah.
And the style is very sketchy. It's very, the word concept art has been thrown around, and I do think it is very concept art, but concept art with a bit of, drawing in the margins of your notebooks. I've heard that said before as well. I think it evokes a lot of different types of sketchy things. That's kind of, this is going to sound bad if it's taken the wrong way, but the first art style that you are exploring when you're making your own comic or something, like you're making your own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just starting out. You've been drawing for a while. You make these comics, and then you're just human characters. They're all kind of like
That's
asymmetrical.
There's one thing. Yeah, I think we were talking about that yesterday. How one side you see their kind of like jawline, and then the other side you don't.
Right.
And I feel like I do that a lot when I'm sketching the character out. I'll make a jawline on one side and then kind of mess it up on the other. So it seems like a first draft kind of version of characters.
It was very clearly a decision. Let's not make any of the human characters be symmetrical. I mean, so April is probably the most symmetrical, but I was saying yesterday, I think that was a choice of making, because of the way that humans are seen, especially in the beginning of the movie, is like, you're supposed to be with the turtles. You're not supposed to be with the people. So the people should be the least appealing of the designs, and the turtles should be the most appealing. And that's the way that it is.
I would say, like, to some degree, maybe they're trying to come across with the message of who's really the monsters. Maybe it's humans.
Sure. I think it's if I would hazard a guess, it would be more of a perception thing, more of you just don't want to feel very comfortable around the human.
Yeah.
You want to feel more comfortable because you're going along the ride with the turtle. So it makes sense from that perspective. Right from the beginning, there's like an explosion, and the explosion, I think we're kind of split on the way that the effects are done, specifically the effects. Because I think that we're getting a little spoiled with hand-drawn effects in primarily CG films. Yeah. It just didn't have the weight behind it.
It felt underwhelming.
Yeah, I wanted for the explosion that happens at the beginning, like I wanted a solid cloud. It's see-through. It's very,
It looked like 3 frames on a loop of of a sketchy cloud.
I understand the feeling that they're going for.
Well, I looked at like a behind-the-scenes thing, and they were going for someone just sketching these out on their like sketchbook in class or something, on their like notebook.
I mean, obviously they're better than that, but that's what I meant about like in the margins of your where there were some that they evoked that kind of feeling, and then there were other things that felt like they felt a little bit more like, okay, but now you're actually in art class and you have some like pastels, or you have some like some chalk, some colored pencils, something that had some texture to it. I think I used the phrase like hard to control. The designs and the painting and everything was done in a way that was very precise, very particular, like what they did, but it evoked a feeling of someone who was drawing or painting in a way that was hard to control.
Yeah.
Like it was not their first time doing it, but untrained, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because we
that's
talked
what made
about
it feel very like underground, sewer-like,
Yeah. We talked about Spider-Verse looking like the concept art, and this one seems like they really went for like that was like the very first concept art, and they were like, "Yep, that's it."
Right.
We're done.
I would also like to say something about that, the Spider-Verse stuff, and I read something where Jeff Rowe, who's the director, it's co-directed as well, but like
I love his
director.
recording company.
Oh,
Jeff Rowe Records.
Or his band, Jeff Rowe Tull. Derailed. What was
Spider-Verse.
Oh, Spider-Verse. Yeah. So it was just an interview with him saying, basically like, are you cool with the comparisons to Spider-Verse? Now, obviously he's gonna say like, yeah, of course. I love a comparison, but the hope was that like, it's not Spider-Verse though. I will say this, it's not Spider-Verse. Yeah. The style is very different, but I understand where the comparison is, and I think that he also said this, so I want to paraphrase because I'm not going to get it right, but I also want to at least give a little credit to that because I do think that this is the right way to think about it. It's more about that Spider-Verse is it was so popular and went so out there, it kind of ended up giving permission to go even further. I think he used the phrase, like they didn't have the vocabulary. Like the audiences don't have the vocabulary to really talk about animated movies in this way for the various different styles. And we don't even, we're comparing it to other things. And I think probably the most accurate is concept art, and the driving force behind the first Spider-Verse film was comic books.
Yeah.
That was, they wanted to evoke that feeling, so they did the off printing, they did the dots, and in this one it has painted feel, it has kind of a sketched feel, so it's just playing with different styles. And I think that's what we have been saying about CG movies for kind of a while now, because I remember we were talking about it was the Peanuts movie maybe, and then we mentioned Mitchell's versus the Machines, which was directed by Jeff Rowe. So as much as we said about the style, and I do want to finish that thought, I do want to say that like this I thought was funny, and kids usually annoy me, and this like in movies, but this had a Goonies kind of feeling.
Oh, definitely.
To where they were talking over each other, and it actually did more of making me feel like, yeah, that's being a kid. The reason I usually get annoyed at kids in movies is because it feels very forced and very like, well, that's not, working.
There were times where it just felt like they had the mics just on around them, and then
there is one particular scene.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's in the preview, so we could say, if you've seen...
the bacon, egg, and cheese?
Yeah, the bacon, egg, and cheese, yeah. If you see that in the trailer, that is a longer in the movie. I don't know if they did any clever editing to hide any seams or anything like that, because that felt so natural and so like, I've been around kids that age.
Yeah.
And yeah, those boys that's how they talk over each other, they scream over each other, they like, and then one of them will just start like repeating something over and over, and then then the other one starts repeating it, and then they all just start like,
there's nothing being said that matters.
It's just words.
Yeah.
It's just word salad, and it's it's really, I think that's one of the most successful things that they were able to do with this that stands out from a lot of other movies.
There was a small taste of that, and I don't want to bring the Michael Bay one in too much, but when they were in the elevator,
sure,
that was like their elevator scene.
Yep.
But we got more of that with this.
Yes.
And when we saw that, it was just like, oh, those are the turtles we want, you know?
Yeah, and there was a moment that was on the roof. It was right in the beginning, and it's like, I like Human. Want to hang out with Drake. I want to meet Guy Fieri and go to Flavor Town. You know, like, what was Leo's? I thought was it a champagne brunch with Brett Favre or something like that? It's like, that is the most, like, it's funny, but also like that kind of stuff felt written, but not unfunny. It was good. It just, there was a peak of charm that came about from that particular scene somewhere around the middle point of the movie that we're talking about with the bacon, egg, and cheese. But if they did that through the whole movie, I would be singing a very different tune.
Like, enough.
Yeah.
You'll be like the guy in Dumb and Dumber that's sitting between both of them.
Yeah.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Bacon, egg, and cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese. Guys! Yeah, there was that one line when they in the beginning when they were talking about the Guy Fieri thing, where they talked about their what Splinter warned them about humans.
To interact with them is to die.
And hey, I know that's objectively prejudiced, but that's what Dad taught us.
We've never seen how they get stuff.
Yeah.
How they like get equipment, you know, how they get food and things like that, really. I mean, in the first movie they like bought pizza, but where'd they get the money from? You know, it's like maybe it was stuff that fell down the sewer. You know, you don't know that.
They put on that trench coat and the glasses, the Groucho Marx glasses.
But in this one, they objectively steal things. They go out and they get
What's funny about
food
that
and toilet paper and stuff like that, and they just steal from a bodega.
It reminded me of the first movie when you see the Foot Clan stealing everyone's stuff. I think they stole the old lady's
TV.
Yeah, her TV. Yeah.
that is forever ingrained in my head. Is her like hopping up from her chair.
Don't even know they've been victimized until it's too late. In fact,
but there is something very interesting about the progression that we've seen over the years of having stuff like Paperman feast with the dog, and it was like, oh, it's painted. But I mean, you could rewind earlier and go to Tarzan had Deep Canvas. It was painting on a CG wireframe of a tree, right, in order to get that scene. The technology has kind of been like creeping toward this space. I don't want to say creeping. I mean, obviously a lot of things have to happen, but there was something that happened where I think the technology would allow you to do this for a few years. The Peanuts movie was a great example of like really holding on to that cartoon comic strip look in CG. I think that was amazing. It was incredibly successful.
Yeah.
When Spider-Verse came around, it was such a bold stance on a property that is usually protected. You know, so Spider-Man. How many live action movies by that point? Classically, there's not big swings that are made with big IP properties like that. And it just felt like such a fresh visual take on something that we were all familiar with. They took a different story, obviously. It was a different Spider-Man, you know, from the Ultimate line, but it was the visual flair of it that I think was really, you know, kind of neat. And Sony had been doing stuff like that, not necessarily under the same division, but Sony had been doing stuff like that before. You know, I remember remarking on, I think it was the surfing? Is it Surf's Up?
Oh yeah, I think it was Surf's Up.
Where they did the virtual camera.
Yeah.
Right, they did the whole blocking and everything, and they actually filmed it, and they got the handheld feeling of it. And then, like years later, you see Jungle Book and The Lion King being like, "Yeah, we got this thing," and Avatar being like, "Oh yeah, we can see it, we can block it, everything." I was like, "Come on, Surf's Up did it first, guys." But I don't even know if they did it first. But I know that kind of technological move, it's like one at a time. You do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And that was such a big thing about Spider-Verse. And the only reason I'm talking so much about Spider-Verse is because I think the big thing about that is it made big swings in animated and big IP animated properties more palatable to executives. I don't think it made it palatable for audiences. I think it was just by doing that and showing its success. I think executives who are generally a little more timid with big properties like that, because they don't want to like take a big swing and just fall on the face, right? It's a big responsibility and you want to do something that's a little bit more safe. And it just showed that, oh, this is where animation can go and should go, which means that I really feel like this summer, that 1-2 punch of Spider-Verse 2, TMNT, Mutant, Mayhem, I think that 1-2 punch is like, well, this is it. This is the summer that kicks animation into a new gear.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Mario in there?
I haven't seen Mario. I will say visually, it doesn't stand out in the same way to me as the others, but I haven't seen it. I thought the trailer was beautiful, but I think if I were to combine those, it would be that I think I said this on a previous episode recently that animation needs to be the place where IP goes now, and not to. I don't want to get people saying like, well, you don't want to do like original films. Of course, original films. What I mean is that I feel like if IP is becoming so stale in live action, animation can reinvigorate it in a way that I think is needed. My hope is that this could be a rising tide lifts all boats kind of situation. My hope is that if you get something like, and I think we also have to say the reported budget of this is between $70 and $80 million for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah. And the Spider-Verse was $100 million. Now, I don't know if anyone's going to come out and say that right after we record this, that there's going to be this expose that shows that like everyone was treated terribly. It didn't look cheap, and it looked like it spent all of its money. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a huge property. Yeah. It's spanned decades, and it's still around. And you could say it's fledgling, but fledgling? Fledging?
Fledging Floyd.
You could say that it's not doing as well as it has in the past, obviously. Yeah. But it's still a big property, and to do this for under $100 million, I think the marketing budget was probably double of what the budget of the movie was. The marketing budget alone is probably $150 million. Yeah. And it seems to have worked. I think this is going to do very well. And if it does, if it gets over 250, right? Like if it gets over like 250 million, and that's not even including sales, toy sales and stuff like that. The takeaway should be, and hopefully would be, things that look like that do well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where they're always going to go after IP. That's always going to be something that Hollywood does. But I'm hoping that it also shows that what people are valuing right now is animation doing something different. Arcane showed that as well. I mean, Arcane looked amazing. That was a series, and I don't know what the budget of that was, but that also kind of pushed the boundaries of what's that line between CG and hand-drawn animation. And then Klaus goes the other way. Yeah. Klaus is hand-drawn and then kind of meets somewhere in the middle. We've said this a lot, but it's a very exciting time for animation.
Yeah. I mean, the only fear is that it's has to look like Turtles or
that's the thing that I think is nice, though, that Spider-Verse has so many different styles in it. Yeah. That any one of those styles, you could have just made the movie. And then Turtles is a different style. Mm-hmm. I think the lesson should be is that people want something different. It's not Pixar anymore. It's not, and I don't mean the movies. I don't mean that Pixar's not doing well anymore. I'm not going to get on that whole debate or whatever. What I mean is that when Pixar came out, the reason why there was like the Pixar style, and it was it was like something you could feel safe in. It was something that like, I know when I look at something that looks like that, I know I'm going to get something good because they sold me on that already. Yeah. So the lesson that was taken away, I think, by audiences was thing that looks that thing good. Right? Yeah. But then over time, it was thing that looks that thing saw already. Yeah. It's not new. I already got it. People are looking for something different, something new, and I hate that. Like you need that fresh, you need that fresh style, that fresh animation. But yeah, we've been stuck in a very similar Western style for a long time.
It's like what happened with Disney. People were used to that style, and then like Fleischer did their things, and then you could tell that they came from like an urban area where Disney came from more of a fairy tale kind of background and stuff like like the more of a polished look. It's kind of what's going on now, where you're kind of muddying up how things look, and something like this, I think younger people would see and be like, "Oh wow, that's not perfect," And I think if you're feeling kind of insecure about your artwork,
Do you think people would feel that way?
what am I looking at the turtles?
Yeah, that it doesn't look perfect.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's not like
Design-wise.
looking at a Bakshi movie. Like,
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's still.
But it has a
Technically,
rough style. I don't. I like.
It has a
I'm-
rough style.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
I'll
looking
give
at
you that.
that
I'll give you
thinking
that.
I
Yeah,
can't do that.
Right,
But,
okay.
But like the roughness and the things don't have to be. The designs don't have to look like a Disney princess or
I think the Simpsons are very charming and like Futurama and everything. It's an iconic style, iconic drawing style, but it is a very particular like comic strip cartoon style. It was kind of different.
Yeah.
I think, every once in a while, you just need that. You need that different thing. And right now, what's really interesting to me is that it's not just one difference. It's not just one thing, because we're now in a place where there's more of an expectation that we're going to be spoiled for choice. There's just going to be a lot of stuff out there. We want a lot of content. We want a lot of different styles, a lot of different stuff. I don't think that it is, well, everything has to look like this now because of the way audiences' minds work at the moment.
To sum it up, Spider-Verse had to walk so that the turtles can run.
I'm not going to say necessarily that if it wasn't for Spider-Verse that this version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wouldn't have existed, because it's possible that if Spider-Verse didn't exist, that this would have come out just like that. It's possible that it all is happening at the same time, and that like what really happened was Spider-Verse got there first, but this was always going to happen. So I don't necessarily want to say that like if it wasn't for that, time I guess could tell. The style worked really well for this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's another example of something that didn't feel like a grab. We got to make it Spider-Verse style. It felt like this worked. They're mutants. They live in a sewer. It is gruff, grimy, sketchy, kind of muddy world, which I think there are times when, yes, it makes the action a little less clear than we would have wanted.
Oh yeah, there were times where I got lost. My brain couldn't read what was going on.
Right.
Because it's just too messy.
I can't remember exactly what the situation was. Something that sticks out in my mind is Leo walking toward April at some point. They all land on the ground and Leo stands up and he starts walking toward April. And that was animated so smoothly. And then he kind of cut away, cut back, and then everything else is like on twos, and it just felt like he was moving relatively slow. I don't know that it was necessary to animate him on ones, and I didn't know if that was a mistake, if they just didn't posterize the time. I'm not sure, but there were just some things like that. The lip sync, I wasn't all that thrilled by the lip sync, but I think it totally worked for the movie. Yeah. And to be totally honest, they're going to make a TV show now that's going to be a bridge between this movie and the next movie, which is awesome. But that also means that you're not necessarily overselling what you can have as a continuation. It's going to be hand-drawn, but not overselling what you can have as a continuation between the stories. It's not going to look too incredibly different.
Yeah. And I wonder if they're going to have it at the same standard of like the way they did the improv, and
I don't know.
Are there going to be certain jokes in the series that I'm like, oh man, it'd be great if that was in the movie, because,
I don't know.
A bigger audience.
It's also a very interesting time for tying in TV and movies, because I think that TV series that drive to a movie is more common than a movie that then has kind of a TV interlude. Like that's what we're doing now. We have like Doctor Strange. You had to watch WandaVision or to kind of get what was going on in Doctor Strange, even though it didn't really line up all that well. And there's the Marvels, and it's a time where studios are also experimenting with how are they going to release things. They're trying to figure out how do we keep audiences engaged and how do we drive audiences back to the theater. What is it? Theater attendance is down 20% post-COVID. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think something like this gets people. And when it's an IP address. Wait, IP address. When it's an IP.
When it's an IP
I
address.
swear to you, I said that without even being like a joke. When it's an IP, I think that gets people more excited to go and see it.
Okay, so that's also.
But now movies are combining.
Yeah.
That whole meme now, the whole Barbie and Oppenheimer. I feel like
Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna be looking for Barbenheimer.
Like, they were already trying to do it with the
Saw Patrol.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Which that's pretty good. You can't do this with Turtles. Turtles stand alone.
So did you? I don't suppose you read this this article. It was on Variety. It was after a decade in limbo, Brian Robbins is giving Paramount a makeover with Ninja Turtles, Tom Cruise, and Gladiator 2.
No.
Okay, so there was a line that was in this article. We're not going to release an expensive original animated movie and just pray people will come, he says. Basically in response to them taking a movie called Under the Boardwalk, which is about hermit crabs on the Jersey Shore. They're releasing that on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
So that quote got a lot of attention on animation Twitter, with a lot of big names coming out and being like, that's really short-sighted, that's stupid, not going to do original movies, you're only going to do IP movies. Ramsey Naito, she responded in a way that was like, no, of course we are producing original animated stuff and we're committed to doing that, trying to clarify that he was talking specifically about that thing. I don't know if he was or not. If you read the full article, it does kind of sound like he was saying,
it sounds like
I don't think an original concept is going to make money in the theater, we're going to put it on streaming. It sounded like that's what he was saying. But the other problem with that is that then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not going to make money if you don't put it in the theater. How many times have I brought up the Red Bull thing, the CEO of Red Bull or whatever, when they were talking about like how much money is...
overcharging it.
Yeah, it was overcharging. It was like, you can't charge this more than $1. And he's like, no, we're going to charge it $5. It's like, why? It's like, because if you charge $5, people will think it's a premium.
Yeah.
And,
and some people would think they'll get wings.
Well, they do explicitly say that through animation.
Yeah.
That it used to be like direct-to-video was a death nail. It's like, oh, there's a direct-to-video thing. It's like, this isn't good enough to be in a theater.
I feel like that's kind of what happened. And I know this is an ongoing debate when Pixar and stuff like that started coming out, and then 2D started being considered more of made-for-TV kind of stuff.
Well, because people wanted something different. That's exactly what I'm saying about the different thing. We're always trying to figure out, is 2D dead? No. It's alive and well in various forms, all across the world, and on TV movies, and hand-drawn animated stuff that's on Netflix, and with more content, with more styles, with more technological advancements. And it doesn't crowd the space. It just takes up space that was occupied by something else previously, and all that shifts. We're listening to 80s and 90s music again. People are like wearing the fashion in the same way, and stuff is kind of going in a cyclical motion. Just simply the way things were, animated films the way they were, is not something that people are coming out for anymore. Not really.
Yeah.
They do kind of, but not really. Now they want something a little bit different, and these movies are paving the way for that.
Yeah.
We should get back to the movie.
Yes.
Again, I liked the movie. I thought it was really fun, but I really want to talk about the content of it as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan.
Yes. I think you mentioned them a couple of times.
Did I?
You might have. Maybe in like 2 episodes or something.
Well, as the resident expert here, I am giving this my full sign-off.
Wow.
I really liked it. Now, I don't know if we're going to play the clip in the intro or if we're going to play it now. If we do, here's your clip.
The feeling of New York was great. And not only that, but they also went upstate.
Yeah.
So like they went everywhere. And it wasn't like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Upstate, which was in the Rockies. Like, you know what I mean? It was like they really went
Man, you say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, wow, if you gave all this animation, character designs, the mood, everything, and made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie,
it would be perfect.
It would be
the ultimate perfect.
I would say better than the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I mean, you might be right. You might be right.
The same humor, the same style.
Yeah.
I don't know if it,
it's one of the reasons I like Spider-Man, though. It feels very similar to Teenage Mutant.
Was there ever a moment where you said...
Wisecracking in New York, kid, and there's like an identity thing where he you can't come out of the shadows. You can't be who you really are, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's this responsibility thing. Well, you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles help the world above, but they can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a similar type of thing as Spider-Man. It sucks being Spider-Man.
The stories of both of them grabbed onto me as a child and stayed with me through my teens. And there are things that I think back of now and enjoy as an adult. I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying that I think the 1990 movie is still my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a quick watch, but it gets in so much emotion. And also, by the way, a lot has been made about how this is the first time that they actually use teenagers. Technically, it's the first time they used all teenagers for all 4 turtles. Corey Feldman was 19 when the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out.
Yeah.
So technically, I guess when he was like recording it or something like that, I guess he was like 18. But point made, they definitely feel a lot younger because they're supposed to be like 15 or, 15, 16, whatever. They're supposed to be around that age. So that all tracks with this movie. They definitely feel younger. And I think that was a smart way to go. But also, they trailblaze. They go off in their own way in a couple different places, which we'll talk about when we get to our spoiler chat at the end. But I liked that as well. I don't usually come to the end of a movie and go like, I'm excited about the next one. I'm like, boy, I hope the next one they can really pull it off. And I think Seth Rogen is the right guy to produce this. I don't know. It just just feels like he's got enough weight to throw around. And he's just as fun enough. Yeah. You know, I don't know what happened with Sausage Party, and I don't know if he was responsible for however that all went. It seems like they're a good team. Just from the outside, it seems like Rogan and Roe, they're, good
yeah. If you look at like Superbad and stuff, like I remember watching that movie, and for the most part, that felt like they actually hired people who were either young or looked young,
right,
for something like that. And I felt like that's what really worked with it. I know Jonah Hill was probably like 25 or something, maybe, but
right.
But it looked like that, and then it gave me that kind of feeling of it. You know, like the whole like McLovin character and all. It just felt like fun it just brought you back to when you were hanging out with your friends and stuff. And this did the same thing.
I think there were 2 really smart choices. One was to really, really emphasize the teenager aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the other one was to make the style something that felt more like concept art, pulpy underground, kid is making his own comic kind of, design feeling. The rendering of it was concept art, but the designs of the characters, I think felt, kind of like this is a teenager's comic who's like really good at art, but like not trained.
And they definitely felt like brothers. Like they felt like they actually lived together for a while.
Yeah.
You know,
the other thing that I'll say is even though there was a couple things, I want to say stuff about the animation itself, the acting, the characters, the action. The animation, I did like the turtles. The humans felt a little stiff to me. It kind of felt like TV animation, kind of a TV CG animation.
I could see that, yeah.
But like not, and I don't want that to come out insulting. I think it actually really fit the world. And I think that if that was a choice that was made, great. If that's just something that they wandered into, great. Whatever kept the money down, because I think I was looking at it, it looked like there was the same number of compositors as there was animators in both Macross and Cinesite. Macross was the first one listed, and then Cinesite was the second one, I think, in the credits. They had about the same size team, so I'm really interested to see how they split things up. But the Turtles animation was great. The expressions I thought were really fun. The voice acting, I really like it. I think the only one that didn't really fit for me was Ray Fillet.
Oh, that Post Malone.
That felt stunty to me, where it was.
There was a running gag there that didn't really work.
You could just lift him right out of the. movie.
They needed just more mutants.
Yeah, and no, I like Ray Fillet. He was on the Tournament Fighters, and he was a great character. I like Ray Fillet, but it just kind of didn't that character didn't work for me. Wingnut was really funny. Nadja from What We Do in the Shadows TV show.
Oh, okay.
I actually did like the designs of the mutants. I thought that they kind of like pushed things in a way that was kind of nice. My fear about Splinter is always that they're going to use him like Worf in Star Trek, where Worf is supposed to be this big warrior, this crazy fighter, but they always have the alien come in and beat him up. Because like they have to show like, hey, stakes are high, man. If they can like beat, but he's just always the one getting like knocked around, which kind of undercut some of that. And they did that with X-Men as well. I feel like every time they have Professor Xavier, they always got to like take him out because he's the world's most powerful telepath. And well, he kind of gets stomped pretty quickly, and they do that with Splinter a lot.
Yeah.
Now in the 1990 movie, it made more sense to me because he was old. It's like he could barely move.
Yeah.
And that's what made the ending so good because he doesn't even move. He plays against Shredder in a way that makes Shredder go wild. And he just does something that is not controlled, that is not whatever. He just flips him over the edge. And and it's great. It's a great use of that character. And all the other characters, I feel like, either make him too frail and feeble, and then all of a sudden he's jumping around like Yoda.
Yeah.
Like that, the Yoda feeling where he's walking with a cane and it's like he can't walk, but now he's like jumping all around. That was actually one of my only criticisms, I think, of the 2007 CG was that. I did like the Nickelodeon Splinter.
He was like younger, right?
He was a bit younger, yeah, 40-something, dad who still had that dad strength, but he's a little older, but he's just past prime kind of deal.
Yeah.
This one, Splinter has a shining moment that is awesome. I was not sold on Jackie Chan being the voice of Splinter in the beginning. Not necessarily known for his acting. So that felt kind of like a stunt casting. I just thought they could have gone a different way. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong. His
comedic
really
timing.
Funny. Some of the stuff that he says are really dry, but he says it like such a dad.
Yeah.
He has really good dad energy. Like there's a couple of moments where you actually feel for him. There's not a lot of like really sensitive moments. There's sensitive moments. They're not really like quiet moments with him, kind of a little bit where you just feel bad for him, but it's not played up too much. It's just you feel sad because of the situation and less about
it's funny because every other like Turtles movie or show was just like whenever the Turtles walked into their house, it's just like, oh, it's serious time,
right? Yeah,
Splinter, and this Splinter is strict with them, is serious, but in his own way, where it's very like comedic, and it just reminds you of your parents.
He's just a protective parent.
He worries.
He's parenting his own way. And I liked when I was reading some stuff just before we started recording about his design, and they give him sweatpants because that's like, the uniform of a single parent. That's what they were like trying to give him a design that made him feel a little bit like the dude. From Big Lebowski. And even when he does have the fight scene, he's moving, but he's not. He's moving quick and energetic. He's a mutant, right? It's just that it kind of feels like I've started exercising again, and your muscles generally can do kind of the stuff that you could do when you were younger, just not for very long.
Yeah.
Right? I can still do it. It's just my joints hurt, my back hurts, and things like that. And I kind of feel like that's what they did with the action. Like he could still move, but he's not in the greatest shape.
Yeah,
and
he pauses in between to hold his back,
lower back.
Oh, okay, I'm back.
He can still jump high. He can still like do kicks and things like that. Like he still has the ability, and that felt really fun to me because it gave you an extra bit of tension in it. The excitement and stuff that I had when I was watching the cartoon for the first time, or when I was introduced to the comics, like after I'd already seen the cartoon. I didn't, read the comics first. I was too young for that. Playing with the toys and things, and all the different versions have all kind of tried to put their stamp on it in a different way. And I'll just say that this one does it in a way that feels like them, and it feels like that family, and it feels like the story, and it doesn't, and it takes some swings.
Yeah, I think so much that if they were to recreate the Turtles again in another movie, it would be kind of hard to. I mean, with the Michael Bay ones, obviously it was just like, let's get away from that and see what else we have. But their characters really kind of stood out as like, this is who they are.
I would miss them.
Yeah.
If they did something else, or they decide, we're going to reboot the franchise, or I would miss this version of the Turtles, which I think is probably the highest praise that I can give to it. And I would miss this version of Splinter as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I was worried about Donatello. His voice was so young, and I feel like it didn't match. But I got used to it while watching. They did the Raph being kind of like rage, but it was more of like a excitement to be angry and cause chaos. It was like it's weird because they weren't like goody two shoes Boy Scouts. They were just like, and this is, I don't know if you want to get into like story too much, but like I think what I would have liked more was for them to question whether they want to be like, Pinocchio going to that.
Oh, Pleasure Island?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think I wanted a little more of that.
I think if they had more time and maybe more budget, it was relatively lean. It's not an hour and a half or hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah.
It's not the shortest, but they packed a lot of movie in there. They packed a lot of movie in. I think that if they had more time and they had more, I think there could have been more development. But for all the chances that they were taking, I think that they struck the chord that they could and that they needed to. They still won you over.
But also, I love the humor. I think they could have scaled back at times when things was a threat. It should have been more of a threat. And
I kind of feel like that might happen in the next movie, but I'm not sure.
Oh yeah,
just because I feel like this is supposed to be like a coming of age kind of story.
Yeah,
but it's funny because actually there's two stories that are going on. There's like the Turtles central story, and then there's a Splinter kind of side story, with his, feeling about the kids, and they're kind of like drifting away, and his response to that. Yeah, it feels like the next movie might give more to, okay, what really happens when teenagers get confused, and I think at this age, hormones haven't entirely kicked in, like they kind of have, but they're just starting, and when things start to get a little more complicated, how they react is going to be interesting. I think the stakes are going to be risen in the next movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just because
it's just because
they're just the difference between like 15, 16, 17, like the difference between those ages are pretty huge.
Yeah. It's just because when they met the other mutants, and we were introduced to Superfly, voiced by Ice Cube, who I thought was really great in it.
I thought, he was good.
Can I just talk about Bebop and Rocksteady? Not about mostly their design, but
the design. Oh, you can talk about the design.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wish that they looked different. Maybe like I don't want to be like, oh, the old version was better, but like I think there were two out there with their design, and it kind of just made them not stand out the way I think that they are true stars. They are OGs. I know they had other, familiar characters there, but I wish they kind of scaled back a little bit with this.
Sure. I have my theory on what's coming up for them, which I'll share in the spoiler discussion. But I'll back that up. I will say that this is probably one of my least favorite versions of them.
Yeah.
I didn't hate them. It just, I think I had more fun fun with them in the second Michael Bay produced one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I watched the clip of that. And I was just like, oh, that kind of looks fun.
Yeah, I mean, they were still stupid. What would they like burp and fart or whatever? I don't remember what they did. It still was dumb, but yeah, I'll back you up on that. We haven't talked at all about April. I liked this April for the most part. I think her motivation for things was a little thin, but like, it's fine. I mean, if they made it clear why everything was happening, and there was just one link in that chain that it's a bit of a leap to think that. Because she seems pretty intelligent. Like, it seems that this is the plan you're going with. Like, of all the things that you could do.
Yeah.
But, I get it. You have to find a way to, like, tie them together. And maybe that's just... They probably had some other ones that they came up. And this is probably the best one they could settle on. And I'm okay with it because it does have an arc. So, like, it didn't bother me all that much. The stammering got a little much for me. But,
Stammering meaning like...
Just the kind of I don't even know how to describe it. All right, well, that kind of thing. I don't know. That's also just a pet peeve of mine. Here I am, also probably in this podcast saying like about 100 million times. So it's far be it for me to talk about anyone's like anyone's tendencies in speech. But for better or for worse, it sounded natural, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they lean in with. She's in The Bear. She's one of the main characters in The Bear. There are times when that particular type of speech grates on me. Like, I just, it's hard to listen. It's just like, spit it out. But I don't know where it comes from. I must have known someone in my youth.
It's the awkward kind of quirky kind of thing where it's just like, So
I mentioned something about Zooey Deschanel when we went out to talk afterward. There are times when like this works, but there's other times where I just feel like pull back on the amount of Zoe, the quirkiness. But whatever, it's a very small thing because I think the acting was good, the joke delivery was good, the animation fit her line readings, fit her tone. She's really kind of mellow. She's really kind of like understated. And I think that's where the stammering works, but it's not as big of a problem as Ray Fillet. Ray Fillet. Nothing.
He should do that again. Or Seth Rogen doing his voice. Which, I mean, what's his name?
Seth Rogen voicing a pig again.
Yeah. It's just, I think he just, when they say who wants what part, he just says that.
I'm the warthog. It's just, he's a warthog forever.
I mean, he was also Donkey Kong too.
Was he?
Yep.
Oh, in this, I didn't see the Mario movie. I feel like I came down hard, or maybe I said more about the stammer. I felt like I needed to define what I was meaning, because there's always something that like bothers you about something. But the point is to recognize that it didn't take away from the movie for me. It was just
it's just that delivery that sometimes can work or not. I think like who's that actress from Bridesmaids and stuff? You know who I'm talking about? The star of Bridesmaids.
Oh, is it Kristen Wiig?
I think she does a lot of that too, where it's just like that awkward, like, oh, well, okay, well, yeah, all right, well, I guess we're doing that. Oh.
Sure, it's not something that I...
Well, it's not, it is, and it's not, it could be other people's things. I don't know. It's not it could be my thing if it works, but...
I feel like we should take Dumb and Dumber. Like, you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? just cut that up.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
It is, and it's not. It could be other people's things. It's not my. It could be my thing if it works. But
guys. So now we have been at this for a bit. We're going to talk about spoilers, but before we do, just going to say enthusiastic recommendation. You should watch it, and don't wait until it comes out on whatever, Paramount Plus or whatever. Don't wait until it comes out. I really feel, just like I felt with Spider-Verse, this is something you need to see in theater, not just because it is amazing, but also because we really want to support this. I want to see a lot more of this. Please go out there and go watch it. Bring everyone. And I don't say this almost ever, but I'm planning on watching it again.
Ooh.
I want to see it again in the theater.
Wow.
Yeah. They got a pizza deal. Like, I just want to sit there and I just want to eat a pizza and watch this movie. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to travel through the sewer to go to the Alamo. That's
Show
how
off.
much I'm going to.
Well, that's just, you're just saving money.
Yeah.
If I can say something about the stammering, there was one stammering part that made me laugh, and that was when she was in the sewer. She said, "Oh, great! There's a cockroach that's riding a piece of poo." I'm glad. I'm so glad that I'm looking at that right now. Like, that was funny to me.
Yeah. Is that the first time poo was acknowledged in a Ninja Turtle franchise? I'm sure that Michael Bay had some kind of reference.
Well, Michael Bay had fart.
Yeah.
Michelangelo,
disgusts
I think.
me.
Fart.
Those turtles
turtle
farting.
fart.
These turtles, they fart is cute.
But they did.
Yeah, no, if they did. But those turtles.
Oh, there is a scene of projectile vomiting, though, which, as everyone knows on this podcast by now, I don't like bodily fluid jokes for the most part. Projectile vomit is the one exception to that. I think it is objectively funny, and this one has a really great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think it's going to be like people either love it or hate it.
No, people have to love it. You have to love it. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I really love it. And if I could say one more, I came out of the movie, I said, who knew that my favorite quote was going to be, "I don't need that horse." And you are going to not have any idea what that means until you watch the movie. It's great. Yeah, recommended. And now let's get to spoilers.
Yes. So when they all died.
No, it's not.
It was a bummer.
When they were all turned into humans. That was the storyline, too, at one point in the cartoon. Yeah, they turned into humans. Okay. The end.
Yeah.
I know there's going to be people that are going to be upset at it. I know they are. Because it's not a traditional thing. I, as a lifelong Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, love the ending. And as one of her friends said afterward, they Iron Manned it. At the end of Iron Man, he just goes, "I am Iron Man." And he just comes out. There's no secret identity. Now it's just out. Tony Stark is Iron Man. Everyone knows it. And it was a shocking, like, exciting thing because that's not what you expected. And in this one, they actually do get what they were searching after. They are the heroes of the city. The final scenes are them going to school. But not only that, the mutants that were introduced team up with them.
Yeah.
They're all accepted as saviors, including Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, I know we have thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I feel like this opens up new areas of storytelling that I think are going to be very good. And my prediction is in the next movie, because stinger among stingers, they're calling in a Shredder. Shredder for the next one. And if that means that we're going to get Shredder, maybe makes the Foot Clan, maybe Bebop and Rocksteady start getting in with a bad crowd kind of deal, right? It's like your friends that are getting pulled into a gang. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I feel like they're going to do. And it's going to be Bebop and Rocksteady are getting pulled into the Foot Clan. Like, what happens if your friends are getting pulled into a bad crowd? That's what that storyline is going to be, I think.
I mean, I feel like they kind of did that, though, with Superfly, having them.
But they didn't really do it that much. With Superfly, they didn't know any better. Superfly was basically their dad. I guess their older brother who, like, raised them. That's kind of the way that they approached it. And so they were, they would do anything for him, even though he was kind of off the rails.
This is what I wanted more from that. It's just like when Superfly says we're practically cousins, and I wanted the Turtles to kind of almost like if you watch the first movie and you see how Shredder had this like underground weird kids smoking cigarettes and stealing stuff.
This is what we do.
Yeah. Like the Turtles in the beginning, kind of like they're already stealing stuff from like the stores and everything. And if they, ended up working with Superfly, and they're almost like the way you see like these mafia movies, like a Bronx Tale or something like that, where the younger person is working with these like older mob guys or something like that would have been kind of fun. And they almost feel like you know what, people don't like us anyway, so what's the point? I wanted a little more of that back and forth, and I feel like that kind of just went away quickly, and they could have really branched out on that.
It did, and I think it was because of if they did do that, it would be hard to come back from that. So I think because April was already there in the story, like if had that happened earlier, then it's like when do you introduce April at that point? Like if you have to have April and you have to have this story, it's kind of the right way to do it. I don't know that they could have redeemed themselves in April's eyes after, going with them and helping them out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Four Non-Blondes cover, What's Going On? I couldn't not think of the He-Man.
Oh yeah,
short wave during the car chase. It was a really funny choice, and the car chase was fun.
What I love though when they go, let's say we weren't into the plan.
Yeah.
What would be the consequences of that? And then Ice Cube's delivery, it felt scary. It felt like, oh man, like this guy is not really, he's humoring them with his friendliness.
Right.
So that's when the threat felt real, like, oh man, this guy can just turn on them easily, He's sizing them up.
His character didn't have an arc, but Superfly, but it was developed well, and I liked, being able to see it through his eyes, and I think that it was a good decision. I wish they kind of hadn't spelled it out exactly at the end, like, you and me, Splinter, we're the same, say exactly why they're the same. I do think that kids probably would have gotten it anyway, because the other thing about this movie, and the other thing I think that I really like about the 1990 movie, is that even when things weren't spelled out, I watched it so much, I caught onto it eventually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, if you don't get it on the first watch, the hope is that kids will watch it a couple times, a few times, and it'll be part of their brain, and they'll ruminate on it, and they'll learn the lessons as opposed to, being spelled out. So I could have done away with that. That felt like one of those studio note things. Mm-hmm. And not that all studio notes are bad, but it just felt like one of those things. It was like, well, I think we need to make it clearer. I could just hear it. I could just hear the room where someone's saying, I think we need to make it clearer that we're doing a comparison between these two. Right now, it just kind of feel, I can
I'm
hear
just
it
glad they didn't
head.
do like a flashback of Splinter saying something he said earlier.
Sure.
At that moment. But yeah, I get what you mean.
No, I liked that. And then we're not even talking about the kaiju moment.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to call it Mutant Mayhem, I love that there was a giant mutant monster at the end, and it also felt like the original arc of the first 5 episodes of the series, that the series pilot. It was aired Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on CBS.
That's crazy.
That was the introduction to the Turtles, that first quote unquote season. And then that was the pilot season, kind of, and then after that they got a full order. The end of that is Krang in the robot suit growing huge. So even that ended in kind of a kaiju moment. And I thought that felt really neat. You brought up a good point afterward of how you would have liked to see that unfold.
The ending with that?
Yeah. Well, you were saying like you would have liked to see the mutations happen as they were fighting.
Oh, I don't think I said that.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
so I think that would have been really, really, really fun, and I bet someone had that idea and they probably just didn't have money for it.
Yeah.
Because that would be not just a boarding fiasco and a staging fiasco, a layout fiasco, but also a rigging fiasco of trying to like make all these different versions. But it would have been really fun had he mutated kind of once in this powerful thing, started flying away, and then they fought him in a zoo.
Yeah.
And every time he's like punched into a penguin, the penguin like, it like mutates into him. But the other part of that, you would absolutely have to show every one of those creatures getting away safely at the end, because otherwise they're just getting absorbed into, it's kind of horrifying. The idea that when he goes into the zoo, he's already this monstrous creature. He goes in the zoo and he comes out more monstrous, and I couldn't really tell what was added. It just looked more complicated, but I couldn't really tell what was there. It would have been really fun to have him get like knocked into all these different creatures and different things, go into a shark tank, alligator tank. He just keeps getting bigger and bigger as this big monstrous thing. And then they knock him into the water. That's when he comes out as this big whale monster. That would have been, I think, a really fun
kind of
progression. Yeah.
I also think like with the title Mutant Mayhem, I kind of want gremlins. I want like all these mutants just taking over the whole city.
I was worried that they were going to turn all the humans in the city into mutants.
Oh, I thought that was another thing. Yeah.
I thought that's what they were going to do, and I was like, "Oh, don't do that."
Yeah,
don't
when the ooze
do
was
that.
in
We've
the
seen it
water,
so much.
Yeah, I thought that's how it was gonna. And I thought that was his original plan to turn.
Oh my god, I can't believe we didn't even talk about Paul Rudd, but like Paul Rudd's Mondo Gecko. Oh my god, there's just so much to talk about. But Mondo Gecko, Paul Rudd basically playing his Wet Hot American Summer character as a 50-year-old, right? He's 50 something. He was so funny and so good in that, and I liked his back and forth with Mikey. But when
pairing them together was great.
Yeah, when he fell into the water, and he's like, "So what do you think happens when a mutation rate goes in the water and there's like a bunch of animals in the water? What do you think happens?"
I think pairing them was the solution to people who were might have been upset that Michelangelo doesn't have the surfer
right
voice.
And that is kind of where I also feel like in the next movie, because he was the skateboarder, and I feel like Mikey's going to get into skateboarding in the next movie, and so he's going to be skateboarding. You know what I mean? This set up things in this one, and none of the turtles did any skateboarding, and that just feels kind of integral.
In the advertisement, you see it. There's a thing where I think Mikey's skateboarding and it says the logo.
I wonder if they cut that out. I wonder if they removed it, because they've already greenlit the second movie and they've greenlit the show to go into that. So I kind of wonder if we're going to see, like, now that they're in school, my assumption is the series is going to be them in school, just like Spider-Man, them in school and dealing with school things and crime things, right?
Yeah.
And they're developing. It's going to lead to some sort of big bad. And I think during that series, you're going to see them like skateboarding. And I think a Bebop and Rocksteady, I think you're going to see them, they're going to grow their bond with the Turtles and everyone else. And they might start to get hints of their bullies and I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. The Foot Clan might even be introduced in the show, kind of leading up to the movie. It makes me very excited. I think this is a great time to be a Turtle fan.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It felt kind of doom and gloom for a while, where it's just like, I think this is it. This ain't for us anymore.
I was just bothered by the Michael Bay produced one, because it just felt like, who is this for? It doesn't look like a movie that kids would necessarily like, and it's not a movie that really appeals to much of anyone. And it also feels like you're putting so much money behind it that if it doesn't do well, that's it. Like, nobody's going to take that kind of chance. And they didn't. It's 70 million, 80 million, whatever the final number's going to be for the budget of the movie. That's not a ton for this kind of movie. But man, did they make it look good.
Yeah.
I think they did a lot. Animated movies don't go much above 100,000. And live action movies, anything with copious visual effects that need to look like they live in a real world. So they need to do a lot of precise rendering and things like that. Those regularly go way above 150 million.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like big IP movies are going to start going more to animation. I would really like to see that continue and then go into R-rated realm, something a little bit more adult. Like, I would like to see that shift happen such that people become accustomed to going to the theater to watch, because I think that's the thing. They just want to see cool stuff. And now we can do such cool stuff. The artistry that we can do, because computers have matured, like our use of computers and programs and technology and everything has matured in a way, it feels like we're in a golden era for us, for animation. Well, for the first time in a long time, we had a technological issue. I guess my battery died on the recorder.
I poured my soul out, and I gave you everything.
So the thing is, we were talking,
and no one heard it.
We were talking basically about just like how exciting it is, and we were talking about like the state of animation and all sorts of stuff. And I don't think we necessarily need to go back to that, because we're not really talking about the movie at this point. We could talk about this movie so much, and I think it's just one of those things that you just have to experience. I'm not going to break it down to every little detail. I think it's also really important to recognize what this means for the industry. It's a bigger deal. And I told you just before I started recording that the first Spider-Verse movie came out, and it was very inspiring. It was like, wow, this is amazing stuff. The second one just came out, and also similarly amazing. It's astounding what they were able to do. I love what this means going forward, but this movie has cemented that. Yeah. I'm more excited after seeing this movie than I was after seeing the second Spider-Verse. Not because I think it's necessarily a better film or a worse film. It's because it's different.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this.
Yeah.
And how much darker they're going to get with it.
I like where they're starting with the story, with the style, and I like what it means for animation as a whole. It's a really exciting time in the animation landscape.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're just kind of like you always thought about, and like if you almost feel like if you had the budget to kind of make something like this, and then to see somebody actually do it, it's just like, oh, thank you for doing that, because we needed this.
With so much 3D software, I've started trying to relearn grease pencil now that there's a new version. Every time that I'm in between jobs, I'm like, I should pick it up. I should, start using it. And then they just keep changing it. Yeah. But there's like more stuff added and things. And I think that now with tools like that, 2D in 3D space is something that you could do it on your own now. You know, it's not something that is proprietary, whatever, and it's open source, it's free. The movie itself is good. The acting's good. The story's good.
Music.
The music. Score. Oh, yeah. Trent Reznor, Atticus. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they did have Vanilla Ice. They could have
I didn't like that part.
They could have used Ice Spice.
Yeah. I didn't like that. I thought that was the only...
Oh, I didn't mind.
That was the only part that felt completely unnecessary fan service.
I don't think it was too bad.
I thought it was unnecessary. I think that there could have been a way to do it differently. I just thought it felt shoehorned.
Unless Splinter was dressed like Vanilla Ice when they did the flashback.
Also, if you're gonna do it, use it in the second movie. Make it clever, because then the second movie is I don't know. Okay. We're going to keep this real short because we got to go, but that'll do it for this episode of the Rubber and Animation Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Highly, highly, highly recommended. Follow Rob at Rob Yulfo Places. Follow me at Rubber Onion Places. Please
find us on X.
Please go watch Mutant Mayhem. It's a delight, and you'll want to see it in the theater. Especially, you'll want to see it in the theater with people. The eruption of laughing at certain parts is really something that I think that you're going to want to experience with an audience. There's just some fun things that you're going to want to experience around other people.
Yeah, so get a slice and
watch something nice.